Hello, my name's Sarah and I'm from Aki's Game. In this video today, we're going to be talking to you about the advanced strategies that you can use to top the leaderboards and to help you advance through the harder difficulty settings. In PuzzleStones, we match lines of 3 or more pieces of the same colour, either vertically or horizontally. One of our key innovations is allowing gaps made up of different colours to exist within the chain, although no single gap can be larger than 2 spaces on the grid. This means that there's usually a lot of possible matches at any one time, and it's relatively easy to find one, as you can see here. However, not all matches are created the same. The far greater the number of pieces and the fewer the gaps, the far greater your score becomes, with very large bonuses awarded for matches with no gaps at all. Remember, there's no awkward fiddling of pieces. Players just swipe in a straight line from the start to the end of the match. We've worked hard to remove the element of luck from the game, and one important element of that was achieved by giving control of the grid refills to the player. After making a match, all the matching pieces are removed, leaving behind any gap pieces. After that, we refill the row if it was a horizontal match, or the column if it was a vertical match, in the same direction that the player used to select their move. So, for example, if you have a vertical match, you could select it starting at the top and ending at the bottom, meaning the column will refill downwards. Or, for the same match, you could start from the bottom and end at the top, and it will refill in an upwards direction. While for a horizontal match, you could start at the left and end at the right, filling in a rightwards direction, or start at the right and end at the left, filling in a leftwards direction. Mastering these refills when combined with the freedom of matching mechanics is what allows for depth and skill within this game. Using these tools, you can move pieces to where you need them to be, and over a series of moves actually construct the large high-valued matches needed for the top scores. The player is not constrained by how the game has refilled the grid. They have the freedom to shape it to their own plan. The following piece of footage demonstrates a simple example of this in action. On this grid, there are a number of instances of 2 touching pieces of the same colour. Ideally, we would like to create a 3 in a row with no gaps, as this will earn us a lot of points. One particular grouping that stands out is the pair of yellows in the bottom left corner. There are 2 neighbouring yellow pieces, either of which will give us our 3 in a row, if we can move them 1 space to the left. We'll use the bottom one as this can be accomplished in only 2 moves. There are 2 red pieces either side. If we can make a match using these, and if we select it from right to left, then the refill mechanism will slide the remaining pieces, including our yellow one, to the left, creating our 3 in a row. This red piece is too far away, as it will create a gap of 3 spaces, and no gap can be larger than 2 spaces. However, if we make a vertical match using these 3 black pieces in a downwards direction, then this red piece will move down 1 space. And now we can make a horizontal red match, giving us 3 in a row. Once the player is used to this, they can start building more adventurous chains, even going for 8 pieces in a row with no gaps. At this point, it's important to understand how the difficulty levels affect the refills. On easy, the colour introduction is completely random. On medium, the game will never introduce 3 adjacent pieces of the same colour along the direction of the refill. And on hard, it will never introduce 2 adjacent pieces of the same colour in the direction of the refill. Note that these limitations only apply along the line of the column or the row that is being refilled. So if you have a horizontal match being refilled, these restrictions apply only in the horizontal direction. A piece can still end up next to 2 matching pieces vertically as a result of this refill. Understanding these limitations and probabilities is useful for predicting the likelihood that a colour you'll need will be introduced off-screen by a refill.
The following demonstration shows how to use all these skills to build the ultimate 8 in a row match.
When trying to build large matches, it's best to try and create them centrally within the grid, as it gives you more directions to pull the pieces in from. For this reason, we are using the blues in the middle row. By making a downwards vertical match with the greens in this column, we can move this blue into position. We now have a solid centre group which we can build on. It's important to make sure any vertical matches in these columns do not displace these blues. Here we can make a downwards vertical match in this column using 3 pieces to move this blue into place.
Although it's possible to make a 4-piece or 5-piece match using the black pieces, the blue would then overshoot where we want it to be. If we could get a blue piece above these 3 greens, then a downward match would move it into position. We can make a horizontal match on this row. If we make the match from left to right, then a new piece will move into position above the greens. We can't guarantee that the new piece will be a blue, but there are no current pieces that would block the refill from selecting a blue, so we have a chance of getting what we want. And if we don't, we can just start working on the lower half. In this instance, it pays off, and with a couple of moves, we have our 8 in a row.
Sometimes there are 6 colours on the grid rather than 5. In these cases, it's better to concentrate on smaller, higher valued matches, typically around 4 pieces. In coverage mode, the player must make matches that cover all the cells within the marked border. Sometimes this must be done more than once. In this game type, longer matches with more gaps will cover more cells.
So, keeping in mind that no gaps can be larger than 2 spaces, look for less obvious pieces that maximise your coverage. It's also best to prioritise the outermost rows and columns, as with less space around them, these can be the more time-consuming ones to cover.
Coloured squares mode sees the player trying to cover specific coloured targets on the grid with a match of that colour. It's important to remember that you don't have to actually have a piece of colour on the square marked by the target. The match just has to cover it. Often, there is more than one target on the screen at once. If one of the targets is proving too challenging, move on to another and you may be surprised how easy it can be when you return to it. On the harder settings with single targets, this mode can be a real test of using refills to move your specific coloured targets to where you want them to be. Remember, with coverage, the ability to have gaps within your matches can give quite a large scope of freedom in how you solve problems, so look around the whole grid and don't focus too narrowly on just the area around the target. We hope this has given you some insight into the harder difficulty levels in the more advanced settings of PuzzleStones. Best of luck, and we hope you enjoy the game.